What's up, guys? It's Lefty here, back with another video on location at the beach. I'm not sure if you can see it in the background, but I'm on the deck, right on the water. Not sure how the audio is going to be with the wind here or any type of cars or distractions, but we'll see how it goes. And we are discussing how to use a live odds screen to help you make strong, well-informed bets. Now, every serious sports bettor uses a live odds screen for many different reasons. And if you're unaware of what a live odds screen is, I'll explain that in this video and tell you why so many bettors use them and how we can make money using them. In summary, a live odds screen is a tool that helps you gather information. Right now, with sports betting's popularity booming, there's many options for live odds services. We have a new one that just came out called Spank Odds now, which is a brand new one, and that's what's on the screen right now. It's still the beta version, and it's not really appealing to the eye, but the information is there. We have Unabated, which is a new live odds service as well. That just came out, which is a little bit more appealing to the eye. They have a lot of other betting tools as well. Dawn Best is probably the oldest and most popular live odds service that most bettors use. It's been around forever, but finally, up until recently, now has some serious competition. A couple years ago, there really wasn't many options for live odds screens, and if you've watched any of my videos in the past, then you're probably familiar with the odds screen called Sports Insights, because that's the one I've used the most. This is Sports Insights. It's a live odds screen, but it also shows the public betting percentages. That's all those columns there that you see on the screen. It's telling you which teams are getting bets and money. Now, not all live odds screens show public betting percentage data. I'm not going to discuss how to interpret or use betting percentages in this video, especially because I've already done a bunch of different videos and lessons explaining on how to interpret this data. You can check those videos out on my YouTube channel. I'll link one of them in the top right corner too, and in the description below this video if you want to check those out. But analyzing the betting market using a live odds screen with public betting percentages is a big part of what we do in the Betting Network Discord community on a daily basis. I've done a bunch of written lessons on this in the past, and there's no shortage of videos and written content explaining on how to read the betting markets. But the problem now is that a lot of the live odds services like Sports Insights cost money, and it's not cheap, so not everyone has access to them. And so in this video here today, it's going to all be about how we can use a traditional live odds screen, the free ones, too. Like this one here, this is BetStamp on the screen now. And it's their live odds screen. And as you can see, it has odds for many different sports books. And it shows you the current lines for those sports books in real time. The general idea for using a live odds screen is to gather information in order to place bets. And some of you may be thinking, why do I care what lines are posted at sports books that I don't even have accounts at or can bet at? Well, I'm going to get to that and explain the easiest way with the least amount of work that you can make strong bets using a live odds screen. And you ever notice how all the sports books have very similar lines? There's hundreds of sports books, and for the most part, they all have the same lines or very close to the same lines. The reason for this is because there's a small handful of sports books that are referred to as sharp sports books or market maker books. These books basically create the betting market and set the lines that the rest of the sports books just simply copy. These sharp sports books or market making books operate using a different method than the rest of the sports books. Typically, if one of these sharp books moves a line, the rest of the books will also move their lines. I've done lessons on how sports books make lines, and all those are posted in the Betting Network Discord community. like this one called The Life Cycle of a Betting Line, on how it's created from open to close. I used to work at several sports books offshore, so I know how it all works behind the counter and on the back end. But the bottom line is, what we need to know is which sports books are these so-called sharp books, or which are BetCris, Pinnacle, and then now more recently Circa. Bookmaker is also a sharp book, but Bookmaker is the same as BetCris. I'll use a very simple example on how you can make a good, strong bet with very little effort using a live odds screen. So let's say you log into one of your sportsbook accounts to check out some NFL lines, and you see a team you want to bet, the Arizona Cardinals, at plus 6.5. You look at your live odds screen and notice sharp books have the same team at plus 5 or at plus 6. And now you want to see what the market the market currently has the Cardinals at, because this will give you an idea if it's a good line or a bad line. So when we take a look at a live odds screen, you notice the Cardinals are listed at plus 5. BetCris, which is probably one of the sharpest sports books, and Pinnacle has them at plus 6, and a few other regular books have plus 5.5. Now, we're in action here. This is all we need to know, that we have a strong plus EV betting the Cardinals at plus 6.5, because the sharpest sports books in the world have a team at plus 5, and you can bet them at plus 6.5. This is a good bet. Win or lose, it's a solid bet, because in theory you're buying a team at a price that's better than the current market standard. Remember, the sharpest books who create and set prices for all these teams thinks Arizona should be plus 5, and you can get plus 6.5. That's a 1.5 difference. Now, if you're paying attention, a thought some of you might have is, well, it's only a 1.5. Why does that matter so much? Will it really be the difference between winning or losing? And this is definitely a concept most recreational bettors struggle with. Will that 1.5 matter? Most of the time it won't. But if you continue to make bets that have a better price than what the market maker books price a team at over a large sample size, it'll eventually make a difference. The margins between winning and losing, betting sports is so small. A couple wins, that would have been losses or pushes that are now going to be wins, could end up being the difference between, being a profitable bettor or a losing bettor. This is assuming you are, doing a lot of the other things correctly as well. If you're able to just pick off bad lines at your sports book, compared to the sharp books, you'll do just fine long term. Does it mean you're going to win every game that you get a better line at? Of course not. Does it mean that 1.5 will come into play and be the difference in the game every time? Of course not. But the idea is you'll be making bets that have value. And if you do that enough times, that value is going to turn into real money over the course of a season. It increases the all-important expected value. If you don't know what expected value is, or EV, as it's commonly referred to, and its importance, I have videos explaining it in very easy to understand details on my YouTube channel. I'll link that in the top right-hand corner now, and it will be in the description below. Making positive expected value bets is the goal to being a profitable bettor. And the best part about this method of just picking off bad lines using a live odds screen is that it's an extremely easy thing to do. Anyone can do it, especially if you have the option of betting at several different sports books and shop lines. The more sports book accounts you have, options to bet at, the better, and the more opportunities you'll have to pick off bad lines. It's probably the single best advantage you have using a live odds screen is just picking off bad lines. Another benefit using a live odds screen is being able to time the market. When to make a bet is almost as important as who to bet. During the week leading up to the NFL Sunday, there are going to be certain points throughout the week called impact points. Impact points is simply, in simple terms, it's a period of time throughout the week where the betting market reacts to certain periods of of time. Or in other words, the sports books move lines based on these periods of time. Monitoring the live odds screen during these impact points can help you pick off better numbers, especially if you're on point and ready for them. Um, but you have to kind of act quick. So what's an impact point? Let's say on a Tuesday when coaches hold press conferences and a head coach makes a couple statements during that conference that could influence the betting line, and it could be anything from possible game plan changes for upcoming games or personnel packages he plans to use or the status of key players or on playing time. The benefit of a live odds screen is being able to see all the different sports books adjust on screen together, and maybe one of your sports book accounts that you have access to bet on is moving their line slower, and you'll be able to pick off a slow moving line. Another impact point would be on a Thursday when the final injury report comes out for an NFL week, and let's say some key players likely won't play. Well, monitoring the live odds stream and seeing lines move based on this news can be helpful. Seeing how they react to certain player news, it's going to help you get the best line possible while all the sports books scramble to adjust lines based on this information. In sports betting, a few seconds can be an eternity. It's the difference between getting a good line or a bad line. And by watching the live odds screen, you can find books moving their lines slow to that important news. Or sometimes I like to call it being asleep at the wheel. Some of these sportsbook managers might miss that news, and it might take them a couple minutes to update it, and that's where you can capitalize. When analyzing a live odds screen and the line moves, I like to take notes in order to find patterns. If I notice a certain sports book is moving their lines on specific teams at certain points during the day that are always in similar spots, I want to track these line moves and kind of see how they've been doing and find out if it's sharp action or just a coincidence. Last baseball season, I found a very good pattern I called the getaway day game trend. I talked about this a lot last baseball season and used it almost daily, which helped me have one of my best baseball seasons in the Discord. I found it basically by noticing line moves from a few sports books the second after lineups were released, and it was always on teams playing a day game, and it was the last game of the series, and the team was traveling immediately after the game. I'm not going to get into the details of why this trend makes sense from a game theory perspective, but this was discovered by just monitoring the market and finding patterns. This is all possible by monitoring a live odds screen and seeing how sportsbooks adjust lines during the day and then just tracking the results. Another good example of how monitoring a live odds screen helped was this past NBA season with so many players being scratched from the lineups the last minute, for load management purposes or injuries. Myself with a bunch of members of the Betting Network Discord community, we benefited a lot from key player news by tracking these last-minute lineup changes, but not in a way you'd think. We noticed key players like, say, LeBron James or Kawhi Leonard would be, cause overreactions to the line moves. Oftentimes when a key player is announced out, the line will adjust drastically because most bettors are quick to bet against a team that's going to be without that key player. But most recreational bettors don't understand that, just because a star player is out, it's not like the backup isn't capable. The fact the backup, a lot of times is typically very motivated to get a start in place of a key player. Their teammates would really kind of rally around them, while their opponent is kind of thinking they have an easy game without the star player playing and would end up being somewhat of a letdown spot for them. This is called the injured player theory. We watch the live odds screen, keep moving the line based on the injured player sitting out, and once we thought the line was finished moving, that would be when we fired on the other side, and it would benefit the team with the key player sitting. We'd get a better price. Another really helpful factor using a live odds screen that most of them, they allow you to see the line histories on games. This odds screen here is called Only Odds. It's another live odds screen. It's helpful to know where the line has moved throughout the week and figure out what caused the line move. Is it related to one of those impact points we talked about, an injury or sharp money that moved the line? And if we look at the Jets-Brown game total, for an example, we can see where it opened and where the current line is. We can see it opened at 43.5, and it's currently now listed at 39.5. That's a pretty big line move. And we can look at the line history, and this can try to help us figure out what caused this move. Is it weather related? Is a key player reported not playing, or is it just sharp money from respected bettors that moved this line? And we can compare the line moves to other books, line history, to kind of see if they move too, and find out, without even checking, we can almost assume with certainty that one of the sharp books started the line move and the rest of the sports books followed. When researching games to find bets, there's two separate ways to break down games. There's the art and then the science. Analyzing the betting market is an art. There's a lot of bettors who understand the science part of the game selection process. They know the teams, who's good and who's bad, player stats, and the on-field matchups. But the art aspect of analyzing the market is what most bettors fail to kind of factor into their game selection process. This is what takes time. It takes a lot of feel, instincts, on where the market will adjust in order to get to the best price. Knowing why the opening line moved to where it currently is. But really what matters the most is where the line's going to be going. That takes both art and science to kind of figure that out. In my opinion, the art aspect is where a lot of bettors need help with, and that's kind of why the Betting Network Discord community focuses so much on the market analysis, because anyone can just look up player and team stats and kind of form an opinion. And while we get ready to kind of wrap this up, I want to discuss a few factors. We want to know which books are sharp, basically. That's an important factor here when we're analyzing the market. You want to know certain things like, which sports books basically are considered sharp, the ones that matter the most, and which books don't. We want to categorize these books as, sharp books. Definitely BetCris, Pinnacle, and Circa. These are books that basically control the betting market, meaning 95% of the sports books just copy their lines. They call these books sharp books because of how they operate. They have high limits. They allow sharp bettors to bet with them, and they use that information to help move lines. When they receive bets from sharp bettors, these books will adjust the lines accordingly. The next set are just recreational books. There's nothing wrong with these books. I bet through pretty much all of them because I don't have to really worry about needing to have super high limits. I'm not betting $10,000 or $20,000 a game, so these books are fine for me, but they won't take huge bets, and they will definitely limit bettors who have a long-term edge. Then we have square books. These books are quick to limit any bettor who has any type of edge. They move their line on air, which means that they'll move lines based on bets made at other sharp books. The people who operate these books are pretty much just stupid. If you can bet with these books, it's totally fine, but if you ever end up winning long term, you will eventually be limited to the amount you can bet. When monitoring a live odds screen, it's important to know what type of sports books are which, because line moves matter depending on the book. Some of these square books are run by operating services that move lines for them. Like, for example, a book like DraftKings, it's operated by a service called Camby, and they handle everything from risk management to line moves. What's also important is which type of bettors are allowed to bet at certain sports books. A line move at Pinnacle Sportsbook is much more informative than a line move at Bovada. because Pinnacle allows sharp bettors to bet there. Bovada will kick sharps out, along with many other books. That's how they manage risk. They just kick out bettors or limit bettors who they believe have an edge. But that's another topic entirely. You want to know when limits increase at sports books during the week too, early in the week, shortly after the betting lines have opened. Sports books have much lower limits because the sports books have less confidence in the opening lines they have listed at this point. So it doesn't take a bunch of money to move lines off the openers. It's more about who's making those bets and are they profiled as respected bettors. Sports books will eventually increase limits, and then a wave of bets will come in, and this will again adjust the lines. And by game day, the sports books are pretty confident in their lines, and they'll increase their limits allowed to bet on games. Knowing this is going to give you information on the importance of line moves at certain periods throughout the week. And this all comes from time in front of the screen and effort analyzing the market using a live odds screen. It's not something you can just start doing and become profitable immediately. A lot of feel and instincts come with analyzing the market. It took me a long time, many hours in front of the screen before I was able to feel confident in my reads to make bets based on the market analysis. And, to be honest, this is really just scratching the surface here. There's a lot more that can be discussed, like market manipulation, setups, and pump fakes by betting groups, and, how books move on air. These are just all things I hope to discuss in future videos, but I'm just a one-man team, I do everything myself. I don't have, any video editors, as you can probably tell. I run the Discord community by myself and all the content that comes with it. I run all my social media sites, and while doing all that, I still have my betting process, which as of now is where the majority of my income comes from, which, a normal person would just focus solely on what makes them money. But I'm determined to kind of, make something out of the betting network, even if that means my sports betting is going to suffer. And speaking of which, it's Wednesday afternoon. I should probably be breaking down week 2 of the NFL matchups because I'm way behind here. But I don't even know how it's possible for some of these professional sports bettors, or I put professional in quotations, or betting consultants on social media to even find time to post as much as they do. But that's another topic for another time too. But I hope this video kind of gave you some insight on how to use a live odds screen. I really appreciate if you watched all the way to the end. If you could like and subscribe, that'd be great. I have a lot of educational content I've done over the past couple years. I don't charge anything, so if you could help me grow on here or on social media, that'd be great. One of my motivations for doing sports betting educational content is seeing just how many fakes and bullshit artists are out there taking advantage of new sports bettors. So that's a big motivation for me, is kind of bringing awareness to how many bullshit artists are out there. Especially since sports betting became legal in most states. It should be an exciting time, but it's also brought along so many con men, looking to take advantage of inexperienced bettors. It's frustrating for me, and was the main reason I even got involved in this space. I never was on social media talking about betting until just a couple years ago, because I could see how many people we're getting taken advantage of and just misled. But then I could go on and on about this topic, but and I think that's going to do it for this one. Until next time, good luck with all your bets, and as always,